Hey there everyone, and welcome to this Q&A video. Before we get to the questions, I'd like to quickly point out that my Mafia II review is now up on Gatekeeper.com, and that is God with only one T. So if you want to check that out, then head on over there. I am not going to do many trailer videos after all, since I do believe that you're all old and wise enough to keep an eye on Gatekeeper.com if you want to see my videos as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll still be able to find them here on YouTube after they've been up on Gatekeeper.com for 2 weeks. Only my coverage on modern gaming will be featured on Gatekeeper.com. For all older stuff, RetrowareTV will still be my home. Anyway, on with the questions that I have received over time for the next Q&A video. Let's go! Jet49er asked, who are your favorite YouTube and or RetrowareTV reviewers? I like a lot of reviewers really, but let's see if I can name some of my biggest favorites. And let's start on the RetrowareTV part of this, shall we? I think that site has a great variety of content providers in general who all have something unique to offer and they're all good. And I always end up checking out each and every one of their shows. Of those, my favorite at the moment would have to be by PixelDan with his show From Pixels to Plastic. I love seeing what games got turned into toys, and Dan is just a perfect host for it. He's such a fun-loving guy and his enthusiasm always shines through and will make any video fun. On YouTube, some of my favorite channels at the moment include Black Lily 8, where you can find his very informative Mad Chat series, Chipsters, who's just a really great guy and puts a lot of effort delivering an excellent presentation in all of his videos, Dinky Dana, who makes great reviews that are very in-depth and honest, Nice and Games, who's still pretty unknown, which is a shame. I really recommend checking him out for some quick and good reviews on some rather uncommon games. Also be sure to check out videos on the OptiTube channel, where Blockman unleashes some very much overlooked classics. I'm sure there are plenty more I'm forgetting right now, but these sprang to mind first. If you yourself have any great suggestions for reviewers to me, then please share them down below. Konami Fan 97 asked, is the CDI common in the Netherlands? Yes, very common in fact. Philips really pushed the CDI format here at their home base, so to speak, and it was possible to order games and such all the way into 1997 over here. A lot of households had a CDI system at some point as a logical step up from a VCR, just like DVD did later. It's very common to find a system with a stack of games and a control pad for under 30 euros here. A question now from Alex Delargo. What would be your favorite video game soundtrack? That's very hard for me to say, there's just so much great video game music out there. It's like picking your favorite pie, can you do that? It just depends on what the mood is and what you're looking for at the moment. Anyway, in general, I do like the normal favorite picks like the Zeldas, Marios, Mega Mans and Final Fantasies, which sure enough all have some very awesome music. Interestingly enough, the CDI also has some great soundtracks. And if I were to name one soundtrack now that I think isn't mentioned too much, but really should get just as much recognition as those other big boys, it's the one from The Adventures of Alundra. Awesome game and an amazing soundtrack that complements the game very well. Specma asked, what was the first video game console you absolutely knew you couldn't live without? Well, none really. I know this sounds kind of sinful to say as a gamer, but yeah, there's just so much great stuff out there that I could care less if by some freak accident any particular console could be wiped out from existence. I would be saddest if this happened to be the original PlayStation, NES or Mega Drive, but I'd live fine without those two eventually. Omega Minion asks, what's your favorite Mega Man game? Mine is Mega Man 8. Well, for me that has to be Mega Man 2, mostly because I just played that the most and am most nostalgic about it. In general, I'm not the biggest Mega Man fan out there though. Even though I do like the games, they tend to kick my ass. I've never actually played 8 either, so can't really comment on that one at all. I'm also not fond of the X series at all, so just don't like them. I did however enjoy Legends though. Yeah, I'll just shut up now and stand against this wall until the firing squad gets here. Axiom of Discord had the question, what games are worth getting a CDI over? Here's a quick list of games I think might be worth it. Of course, it's always dependent on what type of games you want, but these are some of the better games for the system and mostly exclusive to it too. Burn Cycle, The Apprentice, Lucky Luke, Daimo's Quest, Cluedo, Zenith, Asterix Caesar's Challenge, The Lost Ride, Solar Crusade, Laser Lords, although this one didn't particularly age well at all, and Hotel Mario, of course. Yeah, that firing squad is sure taking its sweet time today, isn't it? Mr. A Monkey 7 asked, do you read comics, and if so, what are some of your favorites? I don't actually, and this is mainly because I'm just not that great at reading, and comics are so disorganized to me that I just don't bother with them. Sorry. Edward Elring 555 asked, how is your cat? Well, for those who've been following the Apprentice playthrough videos, I did briefly talk about my cat being a bit sick with a big tumor on his leg. Well, some things have happened and the best way to explain it is to just check him out, shall we? Oh, you Knap, how are you doing today? Oh, acting cutesy for the camera, huh? That's so not you. So, you seem to be missing a piece there. What happened? Oh boy. So yeah, the tumor on his leg was the evil cancerous type. So they had to remove it to save him from spreading it. However, just this Monday I noticed that pink blob over there. And it has already grown quite a bit. And it looks an awful lot like the stuff that was growing out of his leg, so I'm actually not too optimistic about that. But we'll see what the doctor has to say about that, won't we, Knabbel? We're going back to there today, actually, to have that checked out. Otherwise, he's walking around just fine again, although he's being lazy now, of course. And yeah, there's also nothing wrong with him demanding his treats and such. Normally he likes to shout about and mess up my videos, but of course now that he's in the picture, it's alright. Go figure. Edward Elric 555's second question was, why do you call yourself the HalfBlindGamer? I have pretty poor vision, around 5%, and at the time when I started making videos, I just lost my job because of some complications for which I needed to wait a while for an operation on my right eye. So my eyes were more on my mind back then. In retrospect, it is a pretty stupid name, but oh well, I'm not changing it now. Tanuki KGA also had two questions, the first of which is, who would win a fight, Crystal Pepsi or Zuul the Gatekeeper? Remember, we want a clean fight. I feel very tempted to quote a certain critic here, but then again, against Crystal Pepsi? Zuul would never have a chance. I mean, think about it. The stuff is so clear and healthy, it's like holy cola. It would just dissolve Zuul altogether. And his second question was, do you have a favorite game developer? No, not really. There are so many great companies that deliver good stuff, it'll be hard to pick just one again. In general, I tend to look at games as separate entities too and don't base too much expectation on who's making it. But let's just name something to please you guys. Of course, I am not going to pick one of the obvious ones, that'd be too easy. One company that has delivered fairly well, I think, is Level 5. The Dark Cloud and Professor Layton series and Rogue Galaxy are awesome. They hit a bit of a miss with me with White Knight Chronicles, but I'm still looking forward to the new games they'll be bringing forth regardless. Bonamiaf asked, how many languages do you know? Of course you have already heard me speak English, so that's one. Natuurlijk ben ik ook redelijk vloeiend in mijn moedertaal, Nederlands. Ich verstehe ein bisschen Deutsch, aber ich spreche es schlecht. Yeah, sorry if I butchered the German language there, or the English one for that matter. Anyway, it comes down to Dutch and English with a very basic understanding of German. I also at some point learned some French, but forgot most of that, with the exception of some important words. You know, words like croissant, crêpe, cordon bleu, fromage, mayonnaise, pâté, ratatouille, soufflé, baguette, and of course apéritif, déjeuner, dîner, and dessert. Finally, you can bring everything to la toilette. And for his second question, how interested are you in soccer or football? Not at all really. I know I joked about the German calamari in my playthrough video of The Apprentice, but I don't care that we lost the final at all. I had a fun time with friends that evening and it was a great excuse to get together and have a few drinks. Personally, I find the sport itself sort of interesting, but not on that level. You're just looking at a bunch of overpaid bigwigs who tend to have an ego the size of Mount Everest. So I don't care for the sport and all the nonsense that surrounds it at all really. Now for a question from Bakemon13. Why do you have such a passion for the CDI? I don't actually. It's nowhere near my favorite system. It is however a topic that's not covered as much and it's one that I know a decent bit about, so it was more of an obvious choice to cover that. However, I will defend it against being called the worst system ever. Even though it's not very good on its own, I do think it's a very important step in the evolution of gaming consoles that came after it. Technologies such as PlayStation, DVD and even Blu-ray all use concepts that were introduced with the CDI format. I find CDI is often dismissed very easily, while it did bring us so much to be thankful for. Chipsters asked, what is your favorite modern day system or most up to date that you own? That would be the PS3 now. I've had a Wii and a 360 for much longer, but ever since I got the PS3 I just use that more. The Wii basically only comes out whenever I have friends over to play with. I very rarely play something on that alone. As for the 360 and the PS3, I like the PS3 exclusives much more than the ones on the 360, where it's mostly shooters for which I don't care particularly much. I'll admit that it also has to do a lot with the controller, which I always liked ever since the PS1, and it just feels most comfortable for me. The Shaco6 asked, when are you doing another review? Oh yeah, sure, lay on the pressure. Well, I hope soon, but that's something I always say. These reviews take me a lot of time to make and I do want to do some other stuff too. I'm going to be honest here, making these videos is a lot of fun, but it's not my primary goal in life and I'll put it aside as soon as something comes up that I want to take care of that I find more important. You know, something that might actually make me some money later on, like study. Most of my free time is spent on these videos though, and I'll hopefully have a new video review up soon. But I'm not at a point where I'm willing to keep a strict planning to follow. They'll just come as they're done over time, sorry. As for the Little Devil review, the audio got a bit messed up, so I need to play that thing over again. Joy. And that was the final question for this Q&A video. I hope you all enjoyed it somewhat, and if you have any further questions for me to answer in a future Q&A video, then please leave them in a comment down below. Remember now, only 2 questions per person maximum. Well guys, with that I'd like to say happy gaming, and until next time, take care. Oh, now you're talking, huh?